Hey guys, welcome to Glasgow Raiders Nation. I am recording this on my phone as my laptop has now given up the ghost and has permanently seems to be permanently broken, just seems to be not playing ball at all. So, you know what, bit of a interesting dilemma of what to do next. Whether to get a new one and obviously carry on with YouTube, or whether to just give up altogether. It's on my mind at the moment, I think, especially after some of the comments yesterday that I heard were made. I didn't see them myself, but I heard were made on another channel as regards me by some people, so-called Rangers fans. I'd love to know what their thoughts on this, and I'd love them to actually have the balls to come and say this to my face, but you know what, they're cowards, they won't. Anyway, I want to just give a kind of general response to the statement the Rangers put out yesterday. Look, I'm not going to read the whole statement out, a bit pointless. But the SFA have once again proved that they're not fit for purpose, that they are, very much anti-Rangers in their outlooks. They've come out and they've obviously fined Rangers and found Rangers of a guilty of a breach of Rule 38, I think it is. That's the rule, because of the comments that John Brown made during the game against Hibernian. Obviously, after Nicholas Raskin's goal was disallowed, wrongly disallowed, it clearly crossed the line, despite the protestations of Willie Collum. 5 independent people said that it did, and the decision was wrong. Yet Willie Collum, obviously, who we know has a historical bias against us, said that it wasn't clear and obvious. Well, it was completely clear and obvious. We know it was completely clear and obvious. However, look, at the end of the day, let's look at it this way. The comments that Rangers made, it's nice to actually see the club for once standing up for itself, for once actually responding and saying, look, this ain't good enough. This is wrong. You're not applying the rules consistently. You are applying them to us in one way and to everyone else, or to a lot of other clubs, in a different way. I would suggest they're probably making reference to the other side of the city, who do seem to get an awful lot of decisions and an awful lot of get away with an awful lot, shall we say. It does appear to me that the SFA is very much running in favour of one club over another, that there is a natural biasness towards it. It's almost a Franco-esque biasness. If you at all au fait with Spanish football, with Real Madrid and Barcelona in the past, during the Franco regime, when Franco would do all he could to influence games and ensure that Real Madrid came out victorious over Barcelona due to his hatred of Barcelona and the Catalans. There's almost a kind of Franco-esque hatred of Rangers from the SFA, as there was obviously a Franco-esque hatred of Barcelona, if you get my take on this one. Rangers were right to say what they said. They've said that, look, that this calls into a question the ability to speak freely, in effect. I'm kind of paraphrasing what they said here. The fact that you can't question a referee's wrong decision, you can't, make a spontaneous emotional comment anymore, which is what fans do, on fan-based media or on club television. Club television is naturally partisan, as Rangers said. It's going to want Rangers to win. It's going to want Rangers to be successful. It's not going to be as balanced as a TNT and Sky allegedly are. That's the nature of it. And in effect, it's kind of a taking away of the right to freedom of speech, isn't it? We've already lost a lot of our rights to freedom of speech anyway, thanks to the SNP and the Labour government in this country. But, the SFA seem content to put the final nails in the coffin of freedom of speech to some degree. But Rangers have said, quite clearly that, that they flagged up other incidences where similar has happened and no sanctions have been taken against those clubs. They then made it clear that they were not looking for retrospective punishments, nor were they looking for explanations to why they weren't individually punished. What they were looking for was an explanation as to why there was not one universal standard applied to all clubs. That it appears that the moment it happens to Rangers, that Rangers say something the SFA does not like, the SFA will come down on Rangers like an absolute ton of bricks. However, when it is said by Celtic or another club, it appears to be okay, and then they appear to be allowed to get away with it. They said that they would be appealing to and talking to the SFA chief executive and the SFA president, which in my opinion is a complete waste of time, as both of those people are singularly incompetent and useless at their jobs anyway. But they were right that going forward now, there will be a greater scrutiny of how things are applied across the board, that there is a similar standard applied to all clubs universally when comments are made, that clubs will not all be treated differently, that there will be one universal standard. You know, look, there is the thing called the rule of law in this country, that allegedly everyone is treated equally under that rule of law. So, you know, at the end of the day, if you kill someone, you go to prison for a long time. You know, if you get done for speeding, you get 3 points on your license and you get £100 fine, unless you get a speed awareness course. You know, there's a universal standard that's applied. However, there is no universal standard applied here, quite clearly. And like I said, I think the biggest thing is nice to see Rangers standing up for themselves and actually answering back and questioning the judgment, questioning the validity, questioning the fairness of what the SFA have done. You know, asking, is there a universal standard? What is that standard? What is expected? Because quite clearly it is not clear at the moment that it is one rule for one and another rule for others. And that needs to be cleared up. And it's nice to see the club finally answering the SFA back and saying, yes, you may have charged us. Yes, you may have found us guilty. Yes, in your kangaroo court, you may have fined us £3,000, but we're not prepared to accept it. We will not go quietly into the night. We will keep fighting on this one. And we're going to let you know that that's not good enough. And it seems that the new owners, the American owners, that they are not willing to just sit back and let the SFA do as they want and ride roughshod over Rangers anymore. That they will stand up for our club. And that is what we wanted. That's all we've ever wanted from the club. And it's really good that they're finally doing that. And I've got to say, you know, you can just look back on numerous decisions over the last 2-3 seasons where, and more, I know there's more, but you know, you look at the Morelos goal that was disallowed at Parkhead, you look at the handball by Johnston that was got away with, the Seamer goal that was disallowed. You know, you can go on listing things. The fact that when a Celtic player gets booked in an Old Firm, you know full well that he is going to be allowed to foul them with impunity and he will not be sent off. You know that if Callum McGregor gets a yellow card, he will never get a second yellow card in an Old Firm game. You know, these are not opinions, the facts. Go and watch the games. Look at the games. You see this. You know, the fact that they can look back and find something, you know, 2-3 phases ago in play to disallow a Rangers goal, yet when it comes to Celtic, they're allowed to get away with whatever they want. You know, there isn't a consistent standard applied in this country, and that's the problem. And the standard of refereeing in this country needs to be addressed, as Rangers said in their original statement, because the standard of refereeing in Scotland is an absolute joke. I've got friends who are EPL fans, you know, I've got friends who are Liverpool fans, Spurs fans, Arsenal fans, Chelsea fans, and they moan about the standard refereeing in the Premier League. But I'll tell you this, the standard refereeing in the Premier League is pretty bad. Yes, it's not great. But I'll tell you something, it's a lot better than it is in Scotland. I often say to them, well, you can watch a Scottish game and you'll just genuinely go, do you know what, my colour level ain't that bad actually, in comparison. But well done to the club for standing up for themselves. Well done to the club for fighting back. And let's keep this going. Let's keep forcing the SFA to look stupid. And hopefully one day somebody like the UEFA will step in and do something and investigate the SFA for what is going on within the organisation. Because quite clearly, something is rotten in the state of Denmark. That's a quote from Shakespeare, guys. I know Scotland's not in Denmark. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. Just a short video this morning. If you enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share and subscribe. We are the people.